Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Green Factor, where we discuss about green design and the business of sustainability. Today, sorry, I'm Haris, and I'm also known as the Green Carpenter. And today I'll be talking to Mr. Eekang Ooi, a designer, researcher, and lecturer at Asia Pacific University. So Mr. Eekang have been one of the admin with me, with Dr. Sarah and Mr. Asri. And we have also been working on few projects, like I've done few projects with a student, and we are also looking to see how we can make more content for the community, and also see what other things that can benefit the movement. So, Mr. Eekang, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
So, Mr. Eekang, what can you tell us a little bit of your background and why you decided to now focus on green design?
All right. Okay. Thank you, Haris. Basically, I'm in a product design line for nearly 30 years. I'm being on my own consultancy for about 20 years. I've done quite a lot of projects. And at one stage, I kind of wanted to stop being an industrial designer, knowing that a lot of my products that I design ended up in the landfill and being thrown away. I don't want to be this person that contribute to the throwaway society. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that I kind of stopped my design consultancy for a while. For about say I venture into teaching for about 10 years now, and I'm constantly looking for a new area to take it up as a research or venture into. Okay, and I think green. When I heard about green design, when I know that somebody like Green Design Malaysia is doing something, I get really excited and get worked out, and I say, hey, this could be something that we can contribute back. Okay, undo all the projects that I've done, and the throwaway plastics can be kind of stop and turn around, to do something different. So that is why green design is something that I'm very passionate about. Yeah.
So, 20 years in the industry, 10 years teaching.
Yes.
So, tell me, Eekang, why is it important for us to explore green design? What's wrong with traditional method of design?
Okay. In order to talk about that, maybe we have to look into the economy, the business model. I believe that, for example, in the 80s and 90s, I'm kind of born during that period. During that period, right, the business model is very much on commercialization. The business model is selling more is better, selling bigger is better, selling more beautiful things is better. And every year we kind of focus on this end of the year Christmas sales, and everybody have to come up with new products, regardless of what happened. The KPI is new product, new product, new product. And I don't think it's sustainable. If you ask yourself, you look around, how much are we going to keep doing this? How much resources can the earth give us? Okay, and that there are a lot of these products that we design out there. Sometimes they don't really sell. They don't never finish, right? What happened to the old stocks that you have in the warehouse? And eventually you probably have to throw them away. So is there a new way? So this is kind of prompted me to look into, is there a new way? Is there a new system, a more sustainable system? So I think for us now to go into green design, because I think it's appropriate now is for Malaysia to go into green design, because we have been through the 80s and the 90s. That is where everybody is looking into. At that time, we were talking about design for assembly, not design for disassembly. The design for assembly at that time is stress on efficiency. everything that we do is designed to cut down the time for assembly, because every single second that you put into putting things together, it costs you money. So designer will ask to design top-down design, where you don't turn them around during the assembly. Every single time you turn the product around, it costs you money. We are being asked to look into using the standard screw. We've been asked to, in fact, look into not using any fasteners. So that's where the snap fits comes in. Okay, that is an era where we are striving to make profit out from efficiency. Okay, and we have been through that. We have the engineers, the industrial engineers, that being trained to understand this kind of things. I think we are ready to move into the next stage easily, very quickly. You see.
So design for assembly is basically focuses on the just profit, right? So it's efficiency, it's how fast you can get things and as much as you can. So it's really an unsustainable model, and like now we have this movement where we are seeing less interest in profit. I mean, like there is still interest in profit because we need to profit from a business. So it's not like an NGO or government. So the new model of businesses are, they look into other things as well aside from profit. So like the 3P, for example, we look into people, profit, and planet as well. So now we are in the age where we need to understand how the new world should work, and what are the new concepts that we should study or implement in our business or in our design work. So today we'll be talking about design for disassembly. So can you share a little bit about what it is? We have watched the introduction video just now, which gives us a summary of what it is. But in your words, Mr. Eekang.
Okay, my understanding of this design for disassembly, obviously, if you are looking at this age of green design, recycling, you talk about recycle, I think design for disassembly will help in the retrieval of the recycle. I heard data from this program from Singapore saying that they collected 140 tons of recycled garbage, and they only managed to use only about uh, 20 tons, something like that. The rest they still have to throw into the incinerator. The reason of being, of course, contamination is one of them. But when it comes to appliances, when it comes to products, a lot of the time they are unable to actually separate the different types of plastics. Okay, um, you can't really blame these people, because, as I mentioned before, in the 80s and 90s, these design engineers like myself is being trained for efficiency. If we are able to put them together without any fasteners, and that's the whole aim. But we never thought about how are we going to actually disassemble them so that we are able to separate the material out for recycle later. Okay, so this is what happened. You see, I think the design for disassembly now is one of them is for recycling. You are able to recycle the material. And the other thing that you can actually look into it is actually to enable services and repair. Okay, this is something not new in the automotive industry, where you can see car has been services. But having said that, right, there is kind of like legal implications when you come to design for repair and design for maintenance. This is something that the company must look into it. You have to understand that some electronic products should not be simply repaired by anybody at home because of the safety reason. But again, knowing that we are able to design in a way that certain portion, the dangerous portion, the part that you are not allowed to repair, is being enclosed in a different type of enclosure. Okay, so that when people want to replace the component, they only allow to access to the component that they are allowed to change. The one that not allowed to change, maybe they have to bring it back to the dedicated service center. As you can see, some of the mobile phone companies actually doing that. There are more and more service company is coming out. You see, they are able to help you to repair stuff. So design for disassembly is important now because of recycle, because of potential repair and maintenance, so that you can actually prolong the life of a product. Yeah.
Okay. So yesterday I took a train to KL Central and I saw how big it is. I haven't been there for quite some time, and I think because there's not many people as well, so it feels big. And I was wondering, like, after like 100 years, how will the structure be? I mean, like, will it still stand, or if they were to demolish or renovate, like, what happened to the materials? Because like the traditional way of demolishing or renovating is we demolish and we throw away everything. So this is why I've been studying design for disassembly as well. This is if let's say a building, a product is one thing, but we talk about building. A building after a certain amount of use, if it's designed in a way that it's easily disassemble, we can reclaim the material, we can recycle, and we can also maintain it, like what you say, right? So it becomes a process where the material can be used and reused and reused, and parts can be insert and or take part. So it becomes some sort of organic, or there's a systematic way for you to prolong the material age. And what would you say an example for products?
To prolong the age.
The application example. You have
Um,
a
Okay, before maybe I can add a little bit before we go into giving you an example. I want to mention this very important thing about human behavior. We kind of like have this behavior of wanting something new, and after we use something for a while, we kind of like get tired of it. I don't think that we are able to quickly in 1 or 2 generations change this around. I think the desire of having something new and the problems of getting sick of looking at something old, or you've been using something old, is going to be there. So this is why when we look into, let's say, for example, a product. Okay, I think one example that I have over here is if we look at furniture, knowing that people will have this tendency of getting sick of old sofa lounge, for example. We can actually, the designer actually can look into designing a sofa lounge as allow people to, like the building that you mentioned, to change everything inside, to renew them instead of throwing everything away. Like I think sofa is one of the very tricky thing to handle. Most of the time, people will just throw the whole thing away. And if you look at the sofa these days, the material, the fabric that comes together, many of them, like the one that I have at the moment, I have got no idea how am I going to wash them. I think I can wash it, but I don't know how am I going to change it. So if you allow me to maybe change the skin, like you mentioned, maybe I will just change the skin and maybe allow me to recushion it, change the thickness and the volume of the cushion. Then I think the majority of the structure, like the wood and the springs, all these things can still be continued to be used. And this is where you can actually cut down new resources being used again. Yeah.
So you also have a presentation that you want to share, just to share the example.
Okay, I'm going to share screen now. The example that I'm going to share here is also about some of the not so recommended assembly method. Okay, but when I say not so recommended, doesn't mean that you cannot use them. But it could be a potential area for the next generation designer and engineer to work out something new. Just hang on, let me get this share screen up. Okay, all right. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, if we are looking to, we are talking about design for disassembly, insert component is one of the area that maybe you have to avoid. Insert component is something like this screw. Yes, I know that if you are a mechanical engineer out there, you probably will say, hey man, I can't do without this because it's structural requirement, especially when you are designing IP66 or the waterproofing construction, you might need this. But that when you put in a metal into the plastics, when this product end of life, you go into the recycle bin, how are you going to separate the metal out? It's going to be very difficult for you to take it out, you see. So maybe the next generation engineers should start looking into alternative, or maybe should look into a quick way to extract this kind of product out, out from the plastic. So that's an idea. And the other one is heat staking. In the 80s and 90s, when efficiency is number one, I think many people try to avoid using fasteners. Every single screw counts for a cent, something like that. So it's cost. So they use heat staking. Heat staking is where you melt the plastics, and it will hold down the metal pieces here, and don't look down on these tiny little metal pieces. When you throw away your mouse, throw away your electronic products, there are actually quite a lot of them in there. So we should think of another way to assembly them. Ultrasonic welding is one of the very big thing. I remember the first time that I was introduced to ultrasonic, and I was so happy because I can take away 6 of the 7 screws, in there, so I can save a lot of money. I can just declare that my design is already cost saving. Okay, but ultrasonic is something that when you melt two plastics together, when it goes into the recycling plant, imagine how are you going to actually open it out? You have to pry it out, you have to break it in order to take the PCB board, out and separate the material. So it's quite tedious. Like a lot of the speaker grill out there use ultrasonic method to assemble the metal part to the plastic part. I think it's time for us to look into another method. Okay. I found this from an Instructable website. They use sewing method to sew the grill. Okay, so this allows them to change. Adhesive is also another no-no. Okay, because once you glue things together, it's going to be very messy for you to take it out. And when you take them out, the glue is still stuck onto the components or the parts, and it will contaminate the recycling process. Okay, so basically, this is the top-down assembly, and at the same time, in the past, right, everything is being designed in the way of top-down assembly. That means you try not to turn the assembly around, because every time you turn them around, some component might jump out and things like that, and then you have to reassemble them. So it takes time. But the top-down design now can also be used to study design for disassembly. Okay, so it's kind of a similar idea, but the objective, the end objective is different now. Okay. Of course, this is a very well-known Herman Miller Mira chair that separate all the different components with different material properly. But when many smaller furniture company look at this type of products, right, they will kind of like shake their heads and say, no, it's impossible for me to do it because this is kind of like too much to do. And most of the time they will say, I don't gain anything out from designing something like that, because when the customer throw away, it's not my business anymore. That is why I came up with this sofa lounge idea. I think sofa lounge could be one of and the item that you can actually quickly create a circular economy. Okay. So this is why I put it up here. As you can see, a lot of the components in there you can actually change and upgrade, renew. Okay, and when you do that, you probably have to look into a new business model. Yeah. Okay, that's all about my sharing.
So from the presentation, Eekang, I've seen that some method are used to become more efficient, like removing the need for screws and all that from the traditional way. So right now, are you saying that we have to move back to the traditional way for us to move forward?
The traditional method allows us to be efficient, as I say, and you can actually take the method, to study the efficiency of design for disassembly. Okay, um, if you are going into the electronic product is going to be a little bit more complicated, because when you go into electronic products, most of the time, the electronic products is exported overseas. Okay, but having said that, because we have the internet, and then we have all this sharing, open platform and things like that, you can actually create the electronic products and encourage people to recycle or maintain or repair your products when the products is the shelf life of the product is there. You can actually look into replacing the component, or even replacing the very easy wear off parts. Yeah, you can actually create that kind of a platform. Yeah, with
So
all the
yeah,
go ahead.
so you talk about the last slide. You talk about circular economy. So let's touch a little bit on circular economy.
Okay. The reason I choose sofa lounge as an example is because traditionally um, furniture business, they tends to be very localized. Okay, if you want to, if you look around, imagine that you want to sell a sofa lounge, right? Let's say, of course, we have a very large company here in Malaysia that export all these overseas. Okay, but furniture businesses, to me, they can be kind of like a localized type. Okay, you can kind of like create a new business formula that address this circular economy. The lounge is an example, knowing that people would like to change the color, people would like to change the form and change the spring, whatnot, and change the height. Sometimes the designer must factor all these things as a feature. Okay, and then the business must be set up to cater for repair and maintenance and upgrade. Okay, so the business model will not be just focusing on, again, the sell more, sell new, sell big, things like that. So it will be looking into offering this different type of value. Yeah, and then the revenue stream should not be coming back from selling more or selling uh, bigger, and pack everything together and encourage people to buy more. So it should be looking into creating uh, a better quality products that allows people to have more relationship with the products. When you are able to kind of like uh, add on or add something to your products, these products kind of like build a character around you. You see, so when you use the product, you kind of like maybe a relationship attachment. Okay, you kind of like it better, and you can relate it to it better. So it's a whole new business model. It's a whole new consumer behavior, or even a marketing direction that we have to look into it. We have to address maybe the so-called the experiential design. Yeah, people is talking about that these days. With the COVID-19, you can't really travel. Then you look into a different type of experiences. Okay, yeah. So yeah, looking into redecorating and re-characterize your sofa lounge could be one way that you spend your time and your money in the future.
So yeah, regarding circular economy, for me as practitioner, what we are trying to do right now is closing the loop. So when we make products, we have to think on going to happen to the product when it's end life. So normally it's being thrown away or being repaired or what. There's a lot of things that's going to happen at the end of the life. So what we are trying to do is we want to create a system where the material or the products can be either reused or be put back in the system rather than throwing in the waste. Like for example, what I'm trying to work on right now with my business is like whoever that buys product from us, if let's say they want to after a few years, it's already they want to throw it away or they have no use for it anymore, they can send to us and we can reuse it back. So by having the system in place, it lessen the opportunity for the material to be thrown away. So this is the kind of business model or a new way where businesses should look into in terms of circular economy. And we now live in the age where we can have profitability and at the same time have better environmental impact. It was never the case a long time ago where it's all about profiting and taking and taking. So now we have enough knowledge to be able to have our cake and eat it too. So we are almost at the end of the show. Eekang, is there any tips for designers or businesses who want to look into design for the assembly, or how do they start, or where do they start?
Okay, that's a good question. Maybe tying back to what you have mentioned before, because I believe business is design. Design is business. So you are able to design in a way. For example, let's say you talk about the closing the loop, going back to the sofa lounge again. The material, the fabric that covers the cushion. Let's say if we are to recycle that, we can actually recycle it and make it into a product that it could be related to the interior decorative item. Okay, but to do that, right? I don't think it's viable. Maybe, and unless you are a very huge and large, corporation, it's not viable to do everything in under one roof. So this is where you can actually work with people. There may be one company specializing in just recycling the fabric into something else, and maybe just to recycle back into the raw material, and from this raw material we design it again to form, say, for example, a decorative a vase. Okay, but this vase is not made by you, but again, it made by another company. Okay, so this is where I think small, little, very specialized company can actually come together to work out this so-called. You have to have this ecosystem. Okay, and I think the ecosystem is very important, and I believe design can do that, because everything is design and design is business. You can actually plan them in a way that you can recycle your product before you recycle into a material, and then you use the material to design a new product. So you will try to reduce the waste that go into the landfill or incinerator. I think it is possible, and then we are able to do that now. Yeah.
So it seems like it needs to be a collective effort. And this is what Green Design Asia is all about, where we get people, we have researchers, academicians, we have students, we have designers, we have businesses, and we have consumers in the community, where we talk about issues like this and find solution or do collaboration. And thank you for spending your time tonight. If you feel that our discussion can add value to your friend or your family, do share with them and do ask them to be part of Redesign Malaysia and join our conversation, because we need a lot more people talking about this issue for us to bring Malaysia forward in a sustainable way. So thank you, Eekang, for your time, and thank you everyone for spending your time. And I'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye bye.